I work with a lot of women in transition. I mean, that's what midlife really is, right? Is transition. And we're shifting a lot of things: identity, careers, sometimes marriages, where we live. There is so much shifting. And one of the things that I often hear in the middle of that transition, because it can be disorienting, is I'm just not sure what my purpose is anymore. And I understand why it feels that way, but I want to offer you a reframe today that I think is really important, because you always have a purpose. You've always had a purpose. You choose it. And how lucky are you that you get to choose it again? Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. Before we get into the reframe, I want to make sure we're clear on why this matters beyond just feeling good about your life. Having a strong sense of purpose is not a soft, feel-good concept. It's actually a measurable health variable. We know that those who have a strong sense of purpose tend to be healthier. Studies have consistently linked a strong sense of purpose to longer life, lower risk of heart disease, reduced risk of strokes, better sleep, faster recovery from illness, just to name a few things. Research from the Rush University Medical Center found that people with a higher sense of purpose had a significantly lower risk of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. Purpose is not a luxury, right? It is quite literally a biological need, and when it goes missing or feels like it has, the body notices. So one of the patterns I see happening a lot is that often with the age group of women that I work with, again, there's that transition phase, right? Maybe the children leave the home, they've flown the coop, right, so to say. Or she is, again, going through a relationship shift, maybe a divorce, or she's changing careers, one that, she built for decades, but now suddenly just doesn't really feel like it's giving her life anymore. And in that vacuum, the women I work with often try to tell themselves very convincing stories that they don't know what their purpose is, or they've lost their purpose. And of course, you know what I'm going to say, I always push back. I do not co-sign on those beliefs, because what I believe is you've always known what your purpose was because you've always been choosing it. That's the fact. Where you choose to direct your energy and focus has always been a choice, and that is what your purpose is. Where you choose to direct your resources. When you devoted yourself to raising your kids, that was a choice. When you built a career, that was a choice. When you poured yourself into a relationship or a community or a cause, those were all choices. Purpose was never something that descended on you from above. It was always something that you had a hand in creating, even if you didn't consciously frame it that way. So I definitely do not buy into the thinking that what is happening in midlife is a loss of purpose. It is an expiration of a previous choice, something that you have just outgrown, or something that has completed itself. I think that's such a graceful reframe, right? I say this a lot to my women who are getting divorced or ending a career by choice. When they start to, get caught up in the grief of that, or they start to make it harder than it needs to be, I just always offer, what if it was just complete? Because that's often what endings are, right? They're just complete. It's a complete phase. And now it's time for a new phase. So this is where I think the wellness conversation gets a little murky and not very clear. Purpose is a decision, not a discovery. We talk about purpose like it's something you find, something you uncover, something you have to go searching for, usually through a lot of expensive retreats and journal prompts. And look, I am a huge fan of reflection, okay, and awareness. That has value. Definitely not dismissing the power of those things. But I also think it can become a way of avoiding the actual move, which is a decision. Again, you don't decide or don't find your purpose, you choose it. So how do you actually do this? Right? Well, here's a few honest pointers. Start with maybe thinking about what makes you angry. I know this seems like a really weird starting point, but think about it. Think about what makes you angry or breaks your heart. Purpose almost always lives close to our deepest values. And our deepest values are often revealed by what we can't tolerate. What problem in the world do you wish someone would solve? What do you find yourself talking about with the most energy? Whether that's anger or excitement, it could be either one. Look at what you keep coming back to. Not what sounds impressive, not what you think you should care about. What actually pulls you again and again, even when it's not convenient? And then, and this is the hardest part, you got to decide. Not perfectly, not permanently, just for now. Purpose is not a life sentence. It can evolve. But you have to start somewhere, and starting just requires a choice. Maybe your purpose in life right now is to heal. Maybe your purpose in life right now is learning how to celebrate everyday joys. Maybe you decide your purpose is you are going to risk starting that business, taking that class, going back to school, being all in a relationship that you've only skirted the edges of. If you're in a season where purpose feels slippery or absent, nothing has gone wrong. That's really what I want you to take away from this episode. You are just standing on the edge of a decision. You've made this decision before, whether you did it consciously or not, and you get to make it again. So stop waiting for purpose to find you. It isn't coming. You're the one who has to go out and get it. Decide what matters. Trust yourself. Go all in. Because your purpose is simply on the other side of that choice. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.